At the 79th, we know who from the troop and rover crew were killed in action because they are in the Book of Remembrance in the Sheffield Scout headquarters at Trippett Lane, and by the stories handed on by past members who knew them. In 2019, a new book and plaque was dedicated, and this renewed interest to ensure memories are preserved and told to the current generations. We knew of three straight away: Jack Lacey, Douglas Arthur and Howard Siddall. In digging into our logbooks to get any backstories for the three members already known, we found an entry in a troop magazine, Olympus Volume 2. It said, "We announce with deep regret the death of Bill Rhodes, who was killed by a bomb explosion. He was on the ground staff in the RAF and belonged to the 79th Sheffield Rover Crew." So who was Bill Rhodes, and what can we find out about him? Using well-known online search techniques and genealogy programs, we couldn't find a Bill Rhodes at the time who fitted. After some lateral searching, we found that George William Rhodes was living at Rosa Road in 1939. He lived in the right area and was about the right age. Also, he is buried in Crookes Cemetery and was in the RAF. The story about the bomb explosion doesn't quite match. In fact, it's a bit of a sad tragedy. One of the many fatal accidents that happened in war, not a direct result of enemy involvement. The information says that he was on ground staff, but he probably got the chance to go up on a training flight in a Handley Page Hereford. The training flight was a low-level formation flight. The plane suffered engine failure and crashed. All 4 men on board were killed. George was brought home for burial. There is a photo of the original rover crew, but Bill isn't on it. The records from the original formation of the group in 1915 are not as complete as they become in the late 1930s till the 1980s. The stories of the other 3 known scouts were then looked at. Early on it was realised that actually the story of Jack, Howard and Douglas are very sad. They appear together on the original crew photo and close links between them are clear. It is this that brings home the reality of the sacrifice that was made. Starting with Jack, there aren't any military records for him because he worked for the Air Ministry. His citation in the Scout Memorial book reads, "Died on work of a dangerous nature for the Air Ministry." At first we couldn't find anything about Jack, but a suggestion was made by a 96-year-old group friend that a school friend of hers called Jack was really John. John Norman Lacey is buried in Crookes Cemetery. The funeral was here at St Tim's. He was a senior aircraft inspector. We know he married Vera in 1939 and lived in Birmingham. At his wedding, his best man was Howard Siddall, who is the next Rover Scout who lost his life. Jack and Vera had a daughter, Anne, and she married. There is a possibility that she is still alive. As already said, Howard was a good friend of Jack's. He was brought up above the newsagent at the corner of Springvale Road and Mona Avenue, much frequented by children on their way home from Western Road School, now Westways. The shop became Dale's and then Messenger's. Howard joined the Royal Artillery and was in the 37th Anti-Aircraft Battery. The story handed down was that he came home from fighting in 1945 and then died of double pneumonia. Records show that he certainly died of pneumonia, but there isn't access to find out where his battery was stationed. Douglas A. Arthur is probably the best known of our lost rovers. There is a plaque in the church in the Memorial Chapel. The plaque was erected in 1994, and some of the story of Douglas was passed on by his older sister. She had married Howard Siddall's older brother, and so you can see what a group of pals they must have been, just like any group of friends today. Douglas was a pilot. He flew a Halifax bomber, and he was based at Melbourne in Yorkshire. On the afternoon of the 20th of January 1944, he took off with his crew of 6 and 769 other bombers from all over Britain. As they were flying over Berlin, he was engaged and shot down. From the crew, 2 survived and were captured. 3 were buried in Berlin, and 2, including Douglas, have never been found.